Welcome back and to episode 5 of Sarah's New Shutters. Drilling the material out and then creating the mortises for the rails and stiles. First thing is, of course, I'm going to drill out, as I said, drill the mortises. Now, I had mentioned that I needed to get a new, in the last video, that I needed to get a new Forstner bit. Let me show you the differences between the two Forstner bits, the new one and the old one, and you get an idea of what I mean by it was jamming up and not clearing the chips, and how much better the new Forstner bit is. Well, it turns out I can't show you the comparison of the two Forstner bits because I've misplaced the old one somewhere. But suffice it to say, I got the new fish bit in, and it works really, really great. Although I really wasn't satisfied with pulling with the travel through the workpiece. It tended to bind up a little bit because it only has, this is the cutting surface and the shaft is narrow. So I spent the money in this, I'm not going to use it. What I am using is one of my Lee Valley, no sponsorship, my Lee Valley Brad Point 3/8 inch Brad Point bits. And the nice thing about these is at the bottom where the side cutters are, it has a little bit of a lip that's below the level of the side cutters tip that scores the fibers of the wood first before the side cutter gets in there and clears out the wood. Makes for a very clean entry to any workpiece. The fish Forstner bit has exactly the same thing. It's got a little cutter that's a little bit lower than the beginning of the side cutter that scores the fibers before the side cutter gets into the workpiece. So it makes a very, very clean entry. So I'm going to use this Brad Point bit. Much more satisfied with the entry and exit into the workpiece. So let's get on to clearing out some wood. I set the drill press up for the job. I ensured that the drill press fence is 90 degrees to the table. I've adjusted and made sure that the drill axis is perpendicular to the table, so that's also 90 degrees. I put stop blocks up here on top of the fence because when you're drilling deep holes, and when you draw the drill back out, you can pull the workpiece up. And here's a test piece. It's one of my test pieces, and it just fits nice and snug. And so I can draw the piece along and drill the holes and hog out the material. So let's start dogging out some material, and I guess we're going to cue the time lapse again. Before we move on, let me go over a quick little problem I had. So the quill and this drill press is a Morse taper too, as is the shaft that holds the chuck, and it kept falling out. I don't know what exactly was going on. I think it was just a vibration of what I was doing. It kept falling out with either the Forstner bit or with the 3/8 inch Lee Valley bit. So I went in, cleaned everything out with acetone, both of the tapers, the female and the male tapers, cleaned them out just as clean as I could possibly get them. Then bang this back into place with a leather mallet, and it would do it all over again. So of course, I went to the web, and I saw all kinds of suggestions, some pretty crazy, and one that suddenly made a lot of sense. And that was, I threw this thing in the freezer. In the room here, it's at 70 degrees. But I put the chuck, Morse taper and all, in the freezer. And for about a couple of hours. My freezer in here is 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So then I came out with this ice cold frozen tool. And before I put it in, I wiped it absolutely clean of any moisture. Almost no moisture got on it as I came into the room because it's pretty dry in here. Wiped it clean, put it back in here real quickly. I'd moved the table out of the way and I whapped it in again with a leather mallet. Lo and behold, I did all of that work and this did not come out once. When you freeze an item, it shrinks a little bit. And even a couple of half a mil, quarter of a mil is enough for this to take a better bite once it warms up to room temperature. And it has. So it did not come out at all. So let's continue on with the shutters. Well, there you go. So I've hogged out the majority of the material where the mortises are going to be. That's the big ones for the longer stiles. And then mid-piece and, of course, the end one. Now, the next step is to chuck these up in the hollow chisel mortiser and square these up to become actual mortises. After that, we'll go ahead and do the tenons. So these are ready to go. Now to set up the next tool and proceed with the next part of the job. I set up the hollow mortiser with it's a hold down piece, and I put a couple of blocks in here to keep it aligned tight to the fence. I have a piece of stack of wood over here to support it on this end. And as I move along and swip it around, I've got a rolling stand over here to support it on this side. So I'm going to start cutting these now. Let me give you a heads up on exactly what I mean here. When I'm cutting these mortises, it needs to be supported over here. So what I have here is a stack of scrap that's set up to hold it in place. And if I move it out to the other way to the left, if I need it, I have a rolling stand set up for it over here. So that's how I'm going to cut the mortises. So let's get to it. And that's how it's done. Wash, rinse, repeat. A whole lot more of these mortises to cut. No point in recording that. Question you might have is, how do I know I'm absolutely dead center on the workpiece? Well, I'm really close, but I'm not absolutely positive, 100% sure that these are absolutely dead center. The way you fix that is if you've done all the pieces, you flip them around and you do them from the other side. That way you know that the mortises are now dead center in the workpiece, because anything, if it's a little bit off to one side and you flip it around, it takes that off, and then you've got exactly what you want. And like I said before, you cut the tenons to the mortises. So once these are done, I'm going to do the test piece, adjust the mortise cuts on the table saw till I get them perfect, and then whack off the mortises. So wash, rinse, repeat. I'll finish all these off now. Done. Big mortises, midfield mortises, and the bottom mortises. I think I got one I have to adjust there. Yeah, I got to cut more out of that one right there. No big deal, easy to do. So there they are, ready to go for the next step. I swear I got a repetitive motion injury from just pulling that handle up and down to cut all of these out. Remember, I had to go through each one twice. Slight change of plan. I'm going to use my tenoning jig for the smaller cross pieces for the shutters. I find I get a nice cleaner tenon, and it'll go a lot quicker. Now, that being said, I don't think I can use it for these pieces. This may require the dado head. I don't know if I can get that in there and do. Yeah, I might be able to, but it might be better off if I just do this on the dado and then use a shoulder plane to go ahead and, or I have a tenoning plane to make sure it all fits. Make it a little proud and then shave it down so it fits correctly. So with that said, I'm going to get going and cut all these tenons out, just like this one. And then I'll show you the setup for whatever I do with this. But this was real simple. I mean, I've set it up to get the depth of cut in both dimensions. I crank it in here, and I run it through, turn it around, run it, and then turn it around like this, and run it through, and same at the other end. And then I'll adjust it again to do these shoulders here, and then cut everything off, cut it all off on the table saw. Just run it through to a table saw to cut them all off. anyhow, let's, I think I got the depth cut correctly here, and so let's go on and I'll run a couple of these through and then put my headset on and run a couple of these through, and then we'll go. So that's about it for episode 5. After doing some editing, I found myself kind of running past my self-imposed limit of about 10 minutes per episode, just for some brevity. So I'm going to finish these up, and I'll work on a plan for these, and I will record how I find doing these to get the tenons in place. So until episode 6, have a great day and make great things out of wood.